Young children in pre-K program are expelled over 3 times the rate of K through 12, and when you're talking about child care programs, it's more than 13 times the rate of K through 12. Expulsion undermines our national, state, and local investments in early childhood education. We expend a lot of money to provide early care and education programs, and the reason why is because it pays a dividend to us. They pay us back in terms of return on investment, but when we expel children who need the services the most from the program, we undercut the business model of early care and education because we've now taken out the children who are likely to give us our biggest return on investment out of the service. Ultimately, the children who need preschool programs, who need a school readiness program the most, are the children we would want to expel from a preschool program. That's who needs to be in there. That's the reason we had the programs in the first place.
Members of Congress need to understand this issue because it impacts in so many ways, and it is also it's such a critical issue, and one that has so many overtones of racial disparity as well that we have to look at what is going on. The story you told is poignant. It really is. What is the effect of that expulsion on this 3-year-old child? That is what we've got to plumb. What happens to the individual child when this happens?
So children like Charlie are not purposely misbehaving or making trouble. They have what we call regulatory challenges. This means that their sensory systems have a hard time controlling their reactions to emotional and physical stimulation, which leads to impulsive and disorganized behaviors. Stress and chaotic environments at home and in the community can also result in poor self-regulation. When children feel out of control on the inside, they act out of control on the outside. The fact is that even without challenges to their sensory systems or significant stress in their worlds, children under 3 have very little self-control. Challenging behaviors rarely surface overnight. The roots are often seeded in infancy and toddlerhood. Parents and other caregivers need support in identifying babies' unique needs, providing sensitive, responsive care from the start, and helping children learn to manage their strong emotions and impulses, not shame and punish them for behaviors they cannot control. Punitive, harsh approaches erode children's self-esteem, decrease their ability to self-regulate, and lead to an increase versus reduction in maladaptive behaviors.
Kids aren't just born bad. Why are these kids acting like this? And then it dawned on me, the environment. These kids are exposed to stuff that some of us in a lifetime have never seen. They live in homes where police are raiding their houses on a daily basis. Some of our children are desensitized to some of the things that they see. So it means nothing to them when we're trying to nap and we hear helicopters, police cars, sirens. We had one day where we couldn't even leave out the building because the police were using our vehicles to watch other people out there who were making drug transactions. These are real life stories that we experience. So what we did was we brought in some training for our staff. We started working in what we call SAFU training, trauma-informed training, where our staff can learn not just the educational piece, but also the things that trigger these children and where these things are coming from. Once the staff was able to get that training, they were able to work a little bit better with the children. I'm not saying it's all good, but it is a lot better.
The fact that everyone is doing the best they can does not negate the reality of bias. I cannot think about suspensions and expulsions in the early years without thinking about what happens to children in the later years. And I can't think about what happens to children in the later years without thinking about Baltimore and Ferguson and black boys with BB guns in Cleveland and black girls at pool parties in McKinney, Texas, or in that video. The truth is that, Walter talked about teachers expelling kids who are 4 because they're seen as bigger and more of a threat. And I think we need to think about how that applies to black children. The truth is that black children aren't really being seen as children. Research shows that individuals consistently overestimate the age of black children and see them as less innocent and more culpable than their white peers. And where we could channel a child's independent mind and questions, we instead label her as defiant. And where we could praise a child's assertiveness, we punish his aggressiveness. And we need to talk about how we collectively get to a place where we understand where our children are coming from and how we can foster their attributes of strength.
And here's where we need to go. We need to continue tracking expulsion and suspension rates. We need to better understand what is behind the disparities in expulsion and suspension and move towards more effective solutions by understanding it better. We need to delve deeper into what's going on before preschool, because if children are being expelled from preschool programs at 3, there's a good possibility there's some needs there before those children become 3. Invest in evidence-based models of prevention, such as early childhood mental health consultation, to better support our teachers and our providers and our families and our children, and require programs to make appropriate referrals and use already existing services for linking families with other services.